You can't sit home. If you're sick as a dog, you say, darling, I gotta make it. Even if you vote and then pass away, it's worth it.
You can be the most worthless Republican in America, but if you kiss the ring, he'll say you're wonderful.
But you support that view, if it isn't you, it doesn't work out, and it's Donald Trump, that they're going to go elsewhere?
I mean, look, I would take Donald Trump over Joe Biden any day of the week.
So asked folks, do you think Joe Biden legitimately won the 2020 election? 68%, more than 2/3 of those in these early entrance poll results showing up early to the caucus sites say no, he did not. Wrongly say no, he did not.
So based on the first results and our Fox News voter analysis, the Fox News decision desk can now project that former President Donald Trump will win the Iowa caucuses.
He will take the lion's share of the state's 40 delegates. This result really solidifies his place as the current frontrunner for the nomination.
Hey, everybody. I'm JVL here with my friend AB Stoddard, the mistress of despair. This is the dark side on the bulwark. And AB, what a night. This is how I'm coping, because not only do we have the twilight of American democracy, but the forkin' Eagles are getting blown out because they are a terrible team who only teased us with their super hot start. AB, I'm just like in a white hot rage. But it's good because there's no despair, right? Because here's as the poet Bain once explained, that there can be no true despair without hope. And I've had no hope all day long. Yeah, so it's just rage, not despair. As of this hour, we are live at 10 o'clock in the East. The corporate media has called the Iowa caucuses for Donald J. Trump. Because the corporate media, which it somehow is always terribly unfair to Donald Trump, but also is in the tank for Donald Trump. I don't know exactly how that works, but that seems to be where we are. Give me your initial thoughts before we take this away.
So, what if anyone has been reading JVL and knows his theory, which I agree with, this was going to be a tough night for Ron DeSantis if he comes in second, because where does he go from there? So he's probably secretly hoping that Nikki eclipses him and he comes in third and he calls it quits. Right now, we don't know who's going to be in that second place. And that's a big question. I can't believe that I find myself agreeing with the Ron DeSantis campaign and feeling for them. I'm sure, I think the Nikki Haley campaign feels the same way, and so does the Ramaswamy campaign. But having an election called 35 minutes or whatever it was after it started is ridiculous. The votes were still coming in for a long time afterwards, and so the DeSantis campaign is calling it election interference, and it kind of is. People are seeing on their phones that Trump won before they've even gotten to complete their caucus, whatever, give their chit, their little index card in these gyms, and take part in this cool process. Anyway, I did enjoy
ritual of American democracy.
It got a little hokey over and over again on CNN, but I did enjoy watching the process, and so I thought that was sort of rough. Donald Trump showed up at some gym and stunned the crowd. There was Big Orange Daddy, and we knew he was going to win, but it is going to be telling when we know, either later tonight or tomorrow, JVL, who has to take the wheel of the car. If DeSantis is in second, he's hating it. He's got to go to a town hall tomorrow night, and he's got to keep on going. And if Nikki is in second place, as you have posited, is she really interested in a fight with Donald Trump? No, right. So here's what Andrew Romeo, Ron DeSantis' communications director, the statement he put out: absolutely outrageous, womp womp, that the media would participate in election interference by calling the race before tens of thousands of Iowans have even had a chance to vote. The media is in the tank for Trump.
And this is the most egregious example yet. So a couple things about this. This shows us. So Ron DeSantis has run around for the last week, like trying to become a brave truth teller, right? You know, the conservative media is a Praetorian guard for Donald Trump. And as long as you kiss the ring, you know, you can be the most worthless Republican ever. This from a guy who kissed the ring in order to get Big Daddy Orange to help him win the governorship. And for a guy who participated and was a member of the Praetorian Guard. And here we have the moment where he is finally getting actually schlonged by Trump.
Yeah.
And how does he handle, like, react? Because you have to react to reality, right? When reality happens, you're a political figure, you have to react to it. He doesn't want to say, Donald Trump, bad person, did this. No. He's found a way to make it the fault of the corporate media. It's not Donald Trump's fault. It's not Donald Trump's fault. God love him, the big guy. His heart is in the right place. And we would have won, not because Donald Trump was a filthy campaigner who is, you know, should be nowhere near the presidency, but because the corporate media, the libs, are the ones who want him. The level of cowardice here, AB, is off the charts. God's fighter, Mr. Never Back Down, can't even like take his lumps here without deciding that it must be the liberal media's fault. That's the only reason he lost.
And the conservative media's fault. He's mad at Fox. He's mad at Fox.
Yeah, the corporate media. The corporate media.
The corporate legacy media.
I mean, I would just like to say Ron DeSantis will just spent $150 million to come in third in Iowa.
It's looking that way.
That is amazing. I can't think of, I mean, I guess Jeb, I don't think Jeb had this much money.
But let's step back from this. If his money and his ground game advantage, because of the governor, Kim Reynolds, and because of Bob Vanderplaat's evangelical, you know, leader, big person in Republican politics in Iowa until now, for all of the last 3 caucuses, multiple cycles, very influential. If that edge puts him in front of Nikki Haley and he comes in second, it's just so interesting, JVL, to step back. What was the plan all along? Did he have to win Iowa? And see, there was a fantasy, you know, in the conference rooms with his donors that he would, because coming in second, I mean, there was a time when we joked that you joked he would come in fourth behind Vivek, and that would really be a humiliation for his tombstone. But at this point, what do you do with all of that money? And what if your ground game beats, you know, the Des Moines Register poll shows that Nikki had surged in front of DeSantis. And if he impresses tonight because he gets more voters out than her, because he had a really great infrastructure, the meta question is, what were you ever going to do with a second place finish in Iowa? Were you really going to keep fighting Donald Trump when you've never told the truth about him? Neither has she. No one in this race, you know, except for Christie, who was never going to be a contender, would do that. And so Donald Trump romps.
Well, this was, I mean, if you remember, the DeSantis game plan was, of course, we will win Iowa. Because, right. I mean, it was never a question. The idea was like, Iowa's a terrible state for Trump. It always has been. He lost here in 2016. We own the evangelical voters. We own conservatism, Inc. We're going to, and I mean, to not just lose to Iowa, but to lose by 2x, right? So it looks like Trump is going to be 52% or so. Right now, the exit polling looks to be very, very close to what the Seltzer final poll numbers were. And there's some other interesting things in this, one of which being hold on, I want to pull up my notes here. Iowa Republicans, do you think Biden legitimately won in 2020? 68% say no. 68%, right? You look at the educational gap, and Nikki Haley does pretty well in precincts where the majority of the population has a college degree. In place with less educated areas, she's in single digits.
There was another entrance poll, JVL, that shows that 66% of the caucus goers tonight think it will be absolutely fine for Trump to proceed to the presidency if he's convicted of a felony.
Sure.
So that's
why not? Why not?
And again,
this is what these,
again, this was the one thing, as he was indicted 91 times, and the other also rans decided to say he was a victim and to not raise questions about his crimes and the consequences of those indictments. To just say, you know what, you're right, he's a victim, it meant that all of the dollars were wasted, all of this time was wasted, that their careers are deformed by the fact that they submitted to him, and I guess they're not humiliated. We're humiliated for them. But this was never a real fight. This was never a real contest and a competition to sort of take him on and drag him down.
And I want to tell you, because all of this, literally all of it, can be traced back to a single blind quote. And it was the Republican operative who said to, I believe it was the Washington Post, maybe it was the Times, what's the harm in humoring him this little while longer?
Yeah.
That's everything we are seeing is downstream of that. And we said so at the time.
Right.
People like you and I were like running around with our hair on fire saying, no, don't you understand that by humoring him now, you're laying the predicate for him to poison everything and to make it impossible for any other Republican to challenge him? And they were all just like, oh, no, the electorate is, you don't, my fellow. Republicans love a winner. And when they see that Donald Trump has been a loser, they will rally on to the next thing. They're
and of
freaking
course,
monocle, like they're Mr. Peanut. And
I can't do the Mitch McConnell turtle voice, but on February 13th of 2021, he did assure us that that the long arm of the law was going to take care of Trump.
Yeah. Well, this is, it's always the next guardrail that's going to take care of Trump. You can't use this guardrail. This guardrail is terrible. You can't use impeachment. You got to use the criminal law. And then when criminal law comes, you can't use criminal law. You got to use the ballot box, right? And then when somebody says we should apply the 14th Amendment to prevent this guy because he is in clear violation of the 14th Amendment, they say, no, not that guideline.
Right.
No, you've got to use the next set of guidelines for it.
Because each time the premises, the voters can't take this guardrail. They won't swallow it. They will accept the next one. They will respect and honor the legitimacy of the next institutional guardrail or truth.
I want to read something to you. Just a little dispatch from the New York Times' Maggie Astor, who was at the Franklin Junior High School gymnasium in Des Moines. And she reports that at that caucus site, about 300 people were gathered, and that I'm just reading her dispatch here, listened respectfully to all the speeches with one exception. As Gordon Smith, 88, spoke on behalf of DeSantis and referred to Trump's long history of insulting people, a woman in the audience yelled at him, liar! Because
to an 88-year-old.
Even the idea that, like, Donald, they love him because he insults people and talks plain, and because those people deserve it. But if you say, hey, this guy insults people, and maybe that's not what we want, even if you're a super MAGA Republican who is like maybe quasi fascist curious, then you're a liar. I just don't understand how there is any way to make any of this, like gestures broadly, work with people like that in the electorate. I don't understand.
Right. And that's 68% tonight who believe that Joe Biden isn't legitimate. The number in the broader Republican Party has jumped 16 points from May of 2021 until now in not believing that Biden is legitimate president. How can you deal with that? And then, right, when you just get down to the micro, and no matter what fact is raised about Trump, they say, no, that's not the way it is. I live in this reality. He was the most effective. He's a true leader. He loves America. He doesn't take a salary. He's a businessman. He
deeply religious.
Yeah,
way more religious than Mitt Romney, right? He's a super man of religious faith.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, the corporate media, which is so terrible because it wants Trump, will continue to do what they did over the weekend, which is I wrote like a scathing 2,000 words on this morning. Just keep going like Jane Goodall among the apes, just trying to understand them.
Yeah.
Just, sir, can we send a photographer to your house and we'll take a beautiful portrait of you and, you and your family. And you could just tell us why it is that you like Donald Trump and we'll just print it. We'll print whatever you say. If you say it's because he was great for the economy and everything has gotten terrible since he left, we'll just print it. We won't mention that unemployment is, went from 6.7% to 3.9%. We won't tell anybody that. And where's the corporate media when you need them? AB?
I really hope everyone reads what you wrote today and see and clicks on to the link of the New York Times masterwork with all the glossy photos and all the earnest quotes, because it really is such a picture of the danger that we are in the next 10 months. Because when people go to Trump rallies and events and talk to supporters and volunteers, and they continue to say things about, whatever, January 6th, Trump won the election, all these trials are fake, everything's fake, Joe Biden is fake. The media's obligation is to constantly correct them, and they're not going to do it. That's the obligation of the press. And they've been worn down and tired out and numbed, and you can tell that this will be one of the worst liabilities for our side, for those who are worried about preserving the system and protecting democracy. This sort of dabbling in just basically giving up on this exercise of protecting truth because it's exhausting, and just indulging these people. It's so dangerous. When they're doing it, they don't know that it's dangerous. They just feel tired. They're trying to get through the interview or the panel discussion or the live shot or their job, but to do their job. But it's bit by bit, stone by stone. It's so dangerous.
So when I think about all the biggest, for like a liberal order to fail, for it to fall, it requires, the actions of thousands and thousands of inputs, right? It's voters, it's media, you need a strong man, you need weak institutions, right? There's all these things. And when I look at that machinery, the machinery that's attempting to, basically destroy the rule of law and install this guy who says literally that he wants to terminate parts of the Constitution and be a dictator for a day. When I look at the machinery that's trying to install him in power, the truth is, I don't even blame Donald Trump for it. Like, he is what he is, right? It's this frog and the scorpion, right? That's what he does. People like him, this is what they do. The people I get like really, really angry at are guys like Chris Sununu, right? So Chris, I don't know if you saw this. So Chris Sununu, who has spent the last couple weeks now, on the one hand saying, boy, I love Nikki Haley, we should all support Nikki Haley, and then spending an equal amount of time saying, and of course I will support Donald Trump, right? Side note, nobody ever asks Donald Trump, if Nikki Haley's the nominee, will you endorse her? The questions are all one-sided, right? It only goes in one direction. This is
not allowed.
And so Trump because Trump sees guys like Chris Sununu and he knows exactly what they are, right? He looks at that weasel and he's like, yeah,
He can smell it.
He can smell it. And so he goes and dumps all over Sununu on Truth Social. Like, this weakling thought that he was running against me without having the guts to say that he was running against me. Right. And I was beating him so bad. All things which are 100% true about Chris Sununu, right? And Chris Sununu's response to like, hey, I mean, you keep saying you're going to endorse him, but this guy over here is saying that, like, you're a putz, whatever. And Chris Sununu's response is, sure, got to support him, though. Got to support him.
Yeah.
And this is why Trump's takeover of the Republican Party, he was right. That these guys like Chris Sununu, absolute weaklings, and that they would fold and they would do anything they were told to do.
And I completely agree. And I'm writing about this for Wednesday. He could not have done this without them. He could never have succeeded without them.
Couldn't have won in 2016 without them. Right. The Paul Ryans of the world and all these people who went along with it, instead of they've blown up the party right there. They would have lost one election, maybe a second one, and then it would have been back to normal, right? Back to the Chamber of Commerce Republicans.
Okay, let's say they just didn't see it coming and they really were planning on President Hillary and it just wasn't going to happen, right? It was like beyond them. It was just never going to happen. So let's give them 2016. But then they gave him 2020. Oh. And then he tried to steal the election after the fact and incited a deadly insurrection where people died. And he kept lying about it. And they still came back around. So we are here today because of the cowardice, not because of his strength.
I want to end tonight by reading something to you from a newsletter, which you people, if you want to trigger Sarah Longwell, go to thebulwark.com and sign up for my newsletter. It's very good.
She read it today.
No, she didn't.
She did.
It's
on Twitter. It's on the Twitters.
I want to read to you an email that I quoted from a buddy of mine. Because I think this is important for people to start getting their heads around. People are like, well, we just got to beat him. No, we don't just have to beat Donald Trump. This is my buddy, not me. When it came to the election in 2020, we had to beat him at the polls, but that wasn't enough. The election officials had to do the right thing, but that wasn't enough. The judges had to do the right thing, but that wasn't enough. Congress and the vice president had to do the right thing, and it still came down to the Capitol Police resisting an armed mob. Every guardrail had to hold, and it still had to be backed up by a willingness to resist with physical force. We face an adversary for whom statements and propositions only have to be personally advantageous and not true or logically consistent, and that his supporters have accepted and blessed this tactic, and that no legal or political process has any legitimacy to them, except as it is useful against his enemies, and the only thing they respect is force. At the end of the day, there probably isn't anything clever or counterintuitive to do. There is just getting more votes, getting the processes to work, and backing it up with the power of the state. That's what we're headed towards. This isn't like, well, if we could just get to election day and get, 10 million more votes than Trump. That's not going to be enough. It's all coming again. All this has happened before, and all of it will happen again.
I know that it's hard for people to take in the Grimm twins here together. But you are right. JS is right. This is really important that people understand that he will receive the endorsements of the party en masse in the next coming days, hours, days, and weeks, not month. And they will abide every single thing that he says and does. And he will, if he is beaten by 10,000 or 10 million votes, say it was stolen again and call for violence. And Speaker Mike Johnson will agree with him And people need to integrate this now. Because I mean, yes, it's stunning and it's dark and it can make us feel powerless, but awareness is critical. People have got to start putting this in the bloodstream of the public, that this will not be, that there is one outcome for MAGA. Only one.
That's
they
it.
will respect nothing else. And people they just need to swallow this really horrible truth. It's not going to end. It's not going to end in a rules-based process like we saw in Iowa tonight. It's not.
That's right. Unless he wins. And then the rule of law holds.
Right, exactly. Right. Unless he wins.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is Iowa night. Everybody should go to bed. We're going to have the next level live on YouTube tomorrow morning. Once we know more, there will be more to say then. AB, thank you very much. Everybody else, good luck, America.